I was 18, and just I got tall, but I was still skinny, and I was trying to figure it out. But I was on with better people. But then, I got very friendly with him because we just did. And so, if you ever want to, people years ago when Jushin Liger turned up on NXT in Brooklyn, and everybody's, I heard some real stupid stories about that one. And no, I just called up and asked him because we're friends since I was 18. So that was my introduction. And then until I left and moved to America, every year there was another Japanese talent come over to Britain. And if they didn't come to Britain, they went to Germany. And it depended on the size. Like Dave Taylor was in Germany and Austria with Chono and Hashimoto. I was in Germany in 1989 with Kensuke Sasaki.
So the big guys went to Germany.
Yes, because that was the heavyweight sort of place. Britain was more about, there was heavyweights, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but the good heavyweights went to Germany for the time. What the actual, at the time, New Japan's thing was, dependent on who you were, they would send you off on exertion. Not exertion. What's the word? Excursion. There we go. I've just had these teeth fitted in, and I'm breaking them in for me, dog.
Like Kushida just did.
Right? Yeah, that's it. Yes, excursion. There we go. I get my words mixed up sometimes. All them knocks on the head I've had. Yeah. So, what? And this is what happened with Liger. Come to England for a bit, go to Mexico for a bit, go to Calgary when there was any semblance of what was left with Calgary. So there was a history of Japanese wrestlers going to Calgary. Again, it was a melting pot, Calgary. I never got to go there because it was on the wane by the time I was big enough and old enough to go there. But the history of Calgary is incredible, of the melting pot and styles and different, and why you see, if you watch Brett and you watch Owen, how they do it now. If you look at it, or you look at it from my eyes, because I know I'm looking at, there's the mixture of Japanese styles, there's a mixture of European styles, there's the mixture of American styles, because it was such a melting pot and of different styles. So Liger came, and then he went in 1987, and then he went back and became. No, he didn't go back to become Liger. He went back, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really know where he went after that. I just didn't see him.
What was a young Liger like?
Unbelievable.
Fuji Yamada was he
flying Fuji Yamada? Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I'm 18, getting to watch. We've talked about it. The bills that I was on as an 18-year-old, wrestling better people than me, but I'm just a bit player. I've always just been a bit player in the wrestling. Yeah. But I'm getting to watch him on with Rocco every night. And then eventually, in the following year, in February of 87, Fit Finlay came to work there. So I'm watching him wrestle Fit Finlay, and I'm watching him. This is a normal night for All-Star Wrestling.
Right.
I put a bill out a few weeks ago. I apologize that there's a lad from New Zealand puts out stuff, and then I think it was Tony Ershaw put the bill out, and I apologize if it's John Lister or somebody put a bill out of me. In fact, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna. Sure. I want to read this out because I've kept this on my phone because it absolutely, it's insanity. Right. So this is the first night that we talked about this a while ago, that I wrestled Fit Finlay. We talked about this on another episode in a small theatre in a part of Ashton-under-Lyne in Manchester. This is the bill. Now, if you know, you might not know these names, but I'm telling you, this is the everybody except for me, right? I'm like, right. So actually, it is from Tony Ershaw because he sent it to me, right? Your night at Ashton-under-Lyne in February 87 featured a stellar lineup. You versus Fit Finlay. So here's me at 18 on with Fit Finlay, right? Mark Rocco, which is Rollerball Rocco, versus Kung Fu, who was Eddie Hamill, who was one of the people who trained Fit Finlay and was a huge star in England and had been to Calgary and it was just a brilliant wrestler. He wrestled originally in a mask as Kung Fu because Kung Fu in the 70s was a big thing. And then he got unmasked, but he is actually from Northern Ireland. Eddie Hamill, a wonderful fella. So this is the bill. Me against Fit Finlay, Rocco against Kung Fu, Johnny Saint, who world lightweight champion, versus Mike Flash Jordan, who also not long after that became world lightweight champion, who was a brilliant wrestler from Manchester. And then Flying Fuji Yamada against Gaylord Steve Peacock. Steve Peacock, we've talked about it in the comedy thing. I lived with Steve Peacock when I lived at his house. He had a spare room. When I first left home at 16, he was just a pro, but he could work. You know what I mean? He knew how to wrestle. A lot of people have a lot of different things to say about him, but he was, he let me stay at his house, and he actually was one of the first people to sort of be nice to me and teach me things when I was 16, because a lot of them didn't want to, right? So, but that's just a normal bill for All Star Wrestling at that time, and I'm 18 getting to watch that. So we've got Johnny Saint, Fit Finlay, Rollerball Rocco, Kung Fu, Jushin Liger, Mike Jordan. Unbelievable. And this is my life. And this is why I say I have a charmed life. I'm getting to watch Mark Rocco and all these people. And that's why I say, you know what I mean? If nothing else, with these younger talent, I've seen whether I can do it or not, I have seen so much and so many of top, and that bill alone, if you know if you know anything about wrestling, and you really know, that is like a stellar bill, and that's just a normal night for All Star Wrestling. That's what I was around at from a teenager. So me and Liger got on. Liger went away in 87. The next, I forget who came next, because there was one thing after another. But then 1988 was the changing year for me, where I started to be, I grew into a proper heavyweight. And there's the odd picture you put on this thing of me when I'm 20 years old, and I look like, I'm not the 19-year-old me. I'm certainly not the 18-year-old me. I'm a different cat altogether.
So there had to be like maybe a burning desire in you to go to Japan, because it's not just seeing tapes. You're seeing these guys come in. You saw Tiger Mask come in before he was Tiger Mask.
They'd sent them back to England for a bit, and then they were going back to do whatever. And then the history with it was originally, the Liger character was for Funaki. It ended up being with Keiichi Yamada. So I got to meet them, and as we're waiting for Brian, Liger, again, he's seen the skinny 6'3", 18-year-old me 2 years ago. He hasn't seen, and now I'm the 20-year-old that's 17 stone and fit as a butcher's dog, and we're having a chat because we're friends from a few years ago. And I remember seeing Funaki and just like being in awe of him, because he was, I don't know if he's definitely my size, height wise, but just like a movie star, like absolute movie. I just had an awesome presence about him. It's just an hard thing to explain that, but just there's times when you see people and you just go, well, they're just wanting just magic. There's something about him. And when I see pictures of him now, and he's as older, I think he's a couple of years older than me. He just, or we're about the same age. I mean, he just still looks incredible. It's just, and it was like me seeing a movie star. I was just like, wow. And it was just lovely to see him. And they started talking to me, and while we were waiting for this, because Brian was always sometimes a bit late, they said, oh, and Liger was talking to Fanak, and he said, oh, well, we'll talk about when we get back. We're going to get you over to Japan. So that was my first initial thing about going to Japan.
That was it.